So guys, it is that time again. Welcome back to another episode of the Championship Roundup. In today's video, we're going to be rounding up all the action that took place over this second weekend in the Championship, and a lot of talking points to go over today. So as always, if you do go on to enjoy, make sure to leave a like and get all your thoughts in the comments down below as to what you made of your team's performance at the weekend. Before we do hop into anything though, a big shout out to our sponsors over at OneFootball. As always, you can find the new OneFootball app in the top line of the description down below. We've got so much football going on at the moment. We've got more action coming up in midweek with the EFL Cup third round, so if you want to keep updated with everything, OneFootball's the place to be. Get live updates to your phone if you want to watch selected UEFA Champions League or UEFA Europa League qualifying matches. Then you can go ahead and do that for free over on the OneFootball app. As well as that, keep up to date with all the transfer speculation and gossip, so really handy to have linked down below. And before we do hop into talking about any individual games, I will include your guys' score predictions on screen now. There were some pretty topsy-turvy results, so fair play to everyone that did get one right. But without any further ado, let's hop into these matches. And so starting it out with Friday night's game, that saw Coventry pick up their first 3 points of the season, beating QPR by 3-2. Now this one, very much a game of two halves. I thought that for the first half, QPR were having quite a bit of comfortable possession. They were looking to try and find those areas to exploit Coventry, but weren't really bombing forward themselves. Brightside Samuel had a couple of flashes. He eventually won the penalty, from which QPR took the lead, with then Dykes almost taken off the back of the net. 2 penalties in 2 for him. Nice way for QPR to start the game, but they just didn't kick on from that point onwards. Coventry got back into it, probably the worst time to concede for QPR. Those defensive frailties that we mentioned at times last season really cropped back up in this one. I thought that Lee Wallace particularly really struggled at fullback for this one, him being at fault for maybe a couple of the goals. I mean, the marking for the first Matty Gunning goal was absolutely awful. Everyone seemed to be sucked towards the ball. Nice ball to the far post, and then Joe Lumley makes a bit of a meal out of it, let's be honest, doesn't he? Moving into the second half then though, Coventry come out much more attacking. Their 2 wing backs playing much higher up the pitch, and QPR really struggled to deal with that. You know, Dabo heavily involved for the second goal, did really well, but Wallace once again really poor in closing down his man. The ball then it was whipped into the box, but it sort of trickled in more likely. You know, it managed to bundle its way past a couple of QPR defenders, and in the end, O'Hara had quite an easy goal in the end, didn't he, past Joe Lumley to make it 2-1. Barber did get QPR back into the game, but Cal McFadzean goes ahead and wins it from a header, he making up for that penalty he gave away in the first half. Loads of energy from Coventry about that second half performance, really impressed by them, but QPR, the same mistakes cropping up from last season. And then we had Cardiff bouncing back from their opening day defeat as they saw off Nottingham Forest by 2-0. Kiefer Moore with a brace in this one. Speaking of Cardiff first and Kiefer Moore, he was an absolute handful for this one. They took the lead after just 3 minutes. Poor marking from the corner for this one. I think it was Ribeiro in the end who was on Kiefer Moore, just bullied his way past him and then absolutely rifled his header into the back of the net. But the way that Forest set up for this one, creativity was a real struggle for them. I mean, the gap between Lewis Grobban and the midfield was absolutely huge for this one. He was so isolated, and that was a bit of a problem for Forest last season, and so far this season has really showed to be a weakness for them so far. Kiefer Moore then goes ahead and doubles Cardiff's leads. It was a long ball that came into the box that Forest had failed to deal with. Morrison gets a flick on with the ball coming back into the box, and Kiefer Moore once again just bullies his way past a couple of Forest defenders and managed to get it into the back of the net. Kiefer Moore's got so much to his game. I think he's a brilliant target man, but he can also play a bit as well, can't he? I think those 2 goals there will do his confidence the world of good. Forest though, I mean, they had chances. That Lewis Grobban chance again, it's just not been his season so far. Luke Freeman does really well in these tight pockets of space, gets a brilliant ball whipped in, and Lewis Grobban just can't get the effort on target. To be honest though, I think that was one of his only touches of the ball in the first half. He was so isolated for it. It's been a tough start for them. 2 losses out of 2 now. Questions are starting to be asked, especially given how they ended last season. And then we had Blackburn putting 5 goals past Wycombe, so their first Championship away day not going to plan, but taking nothing away from Blackburn, they were absolutely excellent for this one. I mean, the match stats there paint a picture for how dominant they were in this game. They have an attribute going forward, Blackburn, in this side, and that's pace. They were absolutely ruthless. They managed to take the lead after just 16 minutes. Tyrus Dolan, who we may as well touch on, he looks like a real live spark for Blackburn, doesn't he? And it pains me to say as a North End fan, but his quick feet, the way he's able to get out of these tight situations and move the ball on, does brilliantly to win the penalty. Armstrong tucks that away. He's then goes ahead and gets the second goal with that link up from Armstrong at the second time of asking, takes his goal really well. And the third goal I thought was an excellent example of counter-attacking football. Wycombe completely just couldn't live with it. Like, the gap between the quality of the 2 squads seemed absolutely enormous in this one. Lewis Holtby looked brilliant for Blackburn in terms of controlling the game. He was playing a little bit deeper than he usually would. And then goals from Williams and Armstrong wrapping up his hat-trick in the second half managed to see this one off. Obviously, the red card for Wycombe in the second half didn't help things. Darius Charles sent off for a foul Marlon Adam Armstrong as he was about to race through on goal again. I think Wycombe will have learnt a lot of lessons from their opening 2 matches, and it's about how they adapt to those lessons if they're going to really stake a claim for staying up in the Championship this season. Blackburn, though, absolutely blew them out the water. And then we have Brentford picking up their first 3 points of the season with a convincing 3-0 home win over Huddersfield, where there is worrying times there at the moment. First off, I thought that Brentford could have had a couple of goals, really. Ivan Toney was playing off the shoulder of the last man. He got into quite a few decent areas, just couldn't find the back of the net. I think it's only a matter of time before he does open his Brentford account, but the Brentford opening goal in the second half from De Silva, such a satisfying goal to watch. Lovely layoff from Sergi Canos into the overlapping Rico Henry. He pulls the ball back for De Silva, and a lovely first time finish. I think that De Silva and Mbemo this season really are going to be Brentford's main men. The assist for the second goal from Mbemo, he had about 3 Huddersfield defenders all around him. Lovely bit of footwork and trickery in a tight space. Lays off Force, who's completely unmarked, and he makes it 2-0 for them. And then Mbemo's third goal just puts the icing on the cake. You can't allow him to cut inside onto his left foot. He pinpoints that top corner, picks it out brilliantly. In terms of Huddersfield, it's worrying. It's now their 3rd game of the season, if you count that EFL Cup game, where they failed to hit the back of the net. Creativity, I think, is a real issue with this side at the moment. And listen, they have had a tough start, you know, going up against Norwich and Brentford, 2 sides who I think a lot of people expect to be up there this season. Their next game is up against Forest, who have also started the season out in a poor vein of form. It's going to be a very telling one, that one, for Huddersfield, because at the moment there are a couple of warning signs going off there. Luton picked up back-to-back wins as they saw off Derby County by 2-1. Kenilworth Road is going to be a tough place to go to this season, I'm telling you. But in terms of Derby, still very much the building blocks are in place. Judgwick did get his debut for this one and did actually get an assist, but it was obvious to see where Luton were targeting Derby. Craig Forsyth especially, I thought, had quite a poor game for this one. Harry Connick, every time in that first half especially, seemed to have the beating of him. The majority of Luton's play was going down that side. In the end, the opening goal coming from an Ollie Lee ball, which was swung in brilliantly, teasing ball into the box, and then Berry seems to get the faintest of touches on it to make it 1-0 to Luton. Derby did get back into the game. Nathan Byrne on the opposite flank, I thought, had quite a promising debut from them, actually. He was looking to get forward, put those crosses into the box. He was involved in what was quite a nice build-up to that opening goal as well. Judgwick with the layoff, and then Jack Merritt with a nice finish. But it wasn't to be for them. Jordan Clark with his second goal in as many games for Luton, with a diving header to go ahead and win it, unmarked at the far post. Once again, on that left-hand side for Derby, that does seem to be a bit of a weakness for them at the moment, but nevertheless, good 3 points for Luton there. I don't think that Luton fans could have asked for a better start to the season, really. Then we have Borough drawing 1-1 against Bournemouth. Obviously, 1,000 fans allowed into this game. If you were one of those Middlesbrough fans, do let me know in the comments down below, what was that experience like? I'd be interested to know. But Dominic Solanke did give Bournemouth the lead in the first half. It was a bit of a cheeky goal, a flick from a corner in at the near post, managed to make it 1-0. But apart from that, and he did have another chance in the second half to go ahead and possibly kill off the game, making it 2-0 as he raced through on goal. Bettinelli made a really smart save from it. Bournemouth weren't completely there going forward in this one. It was a good, solid performance from Middlesbrough, as a structured one, a lot more organised than they were last season. They tested Begovic on a couple of occasions, and I'm interested to see what happens with Bournemouth's goalkeeper situation. Is Begovic going to be trusted throughout the year to be their number one? Because there were a couple of occasions in this one where he did look a little bit shaky. That Assombalonga free kick, which he spilt a bit, and obviously the offside flag went up as Saville put it into the back of the net. Middlesbrough eventually got back into the game, and deservedly so. It was a brilliant whipped ball in from Paddington there into Marcus Brown, who's obviously back at Borough this season after that loan spell last time out to Oxford United. Nice finish from him to make it 1-1, and in the end that was how that game did finish. So positives from Middlesbrough to build on from that one, I'd definitely say. And then we had North End drawing 2-2 against Norwich. Now, all things considered, I thought this was an excellent away performance, and we were probably a little bit unfortunate not to walk away from this one with all 3 points. It was a pressing performance from North End. We never let Norwich settle on the ball. That midfield three of Alan Brown, Ben Pearce and Ryan Ledson all worked terrifically, and I think did win the midfield battle, you know. Ledson especially, absolutely brilliant for picking a pass from those deep positions. His involvement in the second goal was absolutely vital. We took the lead though after 14 minutes. It was Oliver Skip with a push in the back of Ben Davis. It was a little bit soft, but you can't really get away with those things nowadays, can you? Sinclair tucks away the penalty well. Pookie gets Norwich back into the game, and it was a disappointing way for us to concede after how well we'd actually started the game. Declan Rudd knows he's had a bit of a howler from that one. He sort of just takes the ball and it ends up squirming in at his near post. But we do retake the lead just before half time. Like I say, Ryan Ledson with an excellent pass into Scott Sinclair. Sinclair's efforts rebounded out to Donald Fisher, who takes it brilliantly on the volley. I think having Fisher available at right back again allows Alan Brown to be freed cemented up in that number 10 role, where I think he's done really well in his last 2 matches. And once again in the second half, I thought we were playing some decent stuff. We had more chances going forward, we just couldn't quite kill off the game. Norwich, I thought, improved when Adam Ida came on. He added a little bit more impetus to their game. Placheta missed a great chance as he plays it over the bar, but he did eventually make up for that, smashing in the equaliser. Norwich then had a great chance to win it near the end. Timu Pukki with the chance at Declan Rudd's near post, but he makes an unbelievable reflex save. In the end, I thought it was really quite an entertaining one, where I thought that Preston maybe edged it, where we could have walked away with all 3 points. A good game nonetheless, and there's certainly a lot of positives for North End to build on from there. After that, we had Reading continuing their impressive start to the season as they beat 9-man Barnsley by 2-0. I mean, the 2 red cards obviously had the impact on this match. The first one for Helik, it's a debating point. I think it's fair to say Lucas Giles racing through on goal. Helik tries to catch up with him. There's contact there, but I think that Giles makes the most of it because he knows the goalkeeper's getting to the ball before he is. He wants to make sure there is a bit of contact there before he does eventually go down. He gets sent off for that, and Barnsley have an uphill battle to face from then on because, I mean, Barnsley has started the game out fairly well. You know, Raphael was forced into a couple of decent saves in the first half to keep Reading in it. But then for that second half, Reading looked to put a bit more impetus on their attacking threats. Yaku Mete gets the opener. It's a bit of a scrappy goal in the end, but they'll take anything. Mete is one of those players who will pop up with these moments for Reading throughout the season. Mads Andersen then gets the second red card for a second bookable offence, this one for handball, and it's going to make it even more of an uphill battle for Barnsley to get back into the game. And Elise, with an absolute worldie of a volley from outside the box, managed to make it 2-0. Reading have always got exciting young players coming up through their ranks. Elise looks to be the latest of those prospects. I know we're only 2 games into the season, but Reading fans will be looking happy at the top of the table. After that, we had Millwall beating Rotherham by 1-0. Back-to-back clean sheets for this Millwall side, who made it tough for Rotherham, but overall it was a fairly even game. You know, it was one mistake in the end which led to the Millwall goal. Hekwe, who was the hero last week, the ball this time just went under his foot. Jed Wallace was allowed to latch onto it, takes the ball around Blackburn, and then has an easy tap in to make it 1-0 in the second half. Between each of them though, like I said, there wasn't all too much in this one. Rotherham were certainly threatening from these set piece situations where they're looking to swing the balls into the box. They just couldn't quite get anything over the line in this one. Millwall at times, I'm interested to see how they set up when Troy Parrott does get back to full fitness, because at times so far when Tom Bradshaw's been up there leading the line, he has looked a little bit isolated at times. I still think there's a decent striker there in Tom Bradshaw. He's just not quite got the service there lately. And the clear-cut chances in this one were fairly few and far between. You know, there was only 3 shots on target for the entirety of the match. But Rotherham did press forward in the second half looking for that equaliser. Like I say, just couldn't get anything over the line. Bilkowski took 1 chance wide, but overall decent start for Millwall. You know, we're winning the draw. Then we had Sheffield Wednesday playing out a goalless draw against Watford at Hillsborough. Another clean sheet for this Wednesday side, who are now on -8 points, so continuing to chip away at that as they go unbeaten for their first 2 matches. They probably edged the first half of this one as well with the chances they created. Izzy Brown seemed to be their real creative spot going forward. From a couple of set-piece situations they threatened. Josh Windass got in behind as well at one point and looked quite threatening. And Watford did switch it up a little bit. This time it was Glenn Murray leading the line. We're still really yet to see this Watford side as a full-strength unit, and I'm interested to see what that team does look like. But for the second half, I thought that they improved. Cameron Dawson came up with a couple of quite big saves, actually, to keep Wednesday in this one. But all things considered, with how both halves went, probably the point being the fair result in the end. Watford got a very interesting game next up against Luton Town. And then we had Swansea playing out a goalless draw against Birmingham. One of the more bizarre incidents that happened this weekend was between Swansea assistant coach Alan Tate and John Terrell at half-time. I think there's an investigation going on into that, but it was all a bit of a bizarre one as it all kicked off at half-time. In terms of the match itself, I think Birmingham will be happy with the start to the season that they've made, up against 2 sides who made it into the playoffs last season, Swansea and Brentford, to pick up 4 points from their opening 2 fixtures. Another competitive performance in this one where they were solid defensively. Neil Etheridge at the end popped up with some pretty big saves on his debut, and they also had their moments when they went forward as well. You know, Woodman certainly was tested a few times in the first half. In terms of Swansea, I still do think they are missing that striker. Probably their biggest attacking threat in this one was Morgan Gibbs-White making those runs from midfield. They had a couple of other openings from set pieces and things like that where he with a chance near the end, but I think overall each side will be fairly happy with the start they've both made with 4 points on the board. And then to finish it off with Sunday's game, which saw Bristol City beating Stoke by 2-0. Bristol City always a bit of an unpredictable side to predict, but by far and large they were the better side in this one. Stoke really limited going forward in this one, apart from a couple of flashes here and there from Jacob Brown. Never really threatened this Bristol City side, who from the off looked like a threat. I think it was Sam Clucas with a really poor back pass that Naki Wells almost latched onto, which almost saw Bristol City taking the lead early on, but it was Nahki Wells who would open the score, and him and Chris Martin seem to have this understanding between themselves. We mentioned it previously on the channel, but Martin, as probably one of the best hold-up players in the Championship, does absolutely brilliantly to take down this ball that's coming diagonally from Jack Hunt. He just anchors the ball back into the box for Nahki Wells to latch onto. He then brilliantly smashes it in to the top corner to make it 1-0 just before half-time. The worst time for Stoke to concede, really, and to be honest, the goal had been coming. Bristol City were the better side up until that point, and the second goal they get from a bit of lax defending from Stoke, really. Semenyo latches onto it, squares it to Vyman, who I thought was a real bundle of energy for this one. Deservedly so, he got on the score sheet to wrap up all 3 points for Bristol City, and like I say, worthy winners, and there's a lot of competition for places in that Bristol City squad at the moment. It's a side who's invested well over the summer. I think we're starting to see some of those new players bedded into the squad now. Nahki Wells is a player who I think we all expect to really kick on this season for Bristol City as well. So 6 points out of 6 for them, a lot to like about it. With Stoke still very much got a bit of tinkering to do with the formula there. I'm not sure if the wing-back system's the right thing to go forward for them with the players they've got at the club. Still very early days though. But guys, there we have it. That will now wrap it up for today's episode of the Championship Roundup. So as always, get your thoughts in the comments down below for what you made of your team's performance this weekend. In terms of my result of the weekend, some big score lines. I think I'm going to have to give it to Blackburn Rovers. I think that 5-0 win over Wycombe was a bit of a statement of intent, and especially maybe a sign of things to come when it comes to their forward line this season. Adam Armstrong especially has been on fire since the start of the season. Goal of the weekend, I'm going to give to Michael Elise for that fantastic goal against Barnsley. Outside the box volley, not a lot wrong with that one. I think there were definitely some contenders, some good goals scored this weekend, but that for me just about edges it. But guys, there we have it. That will now wrap it up for today's video. So like I say, if you did go on to enjoy, make sure to leave a like, and please do stick around and subscribe for a bit of regular Championship content. But apart from that, guys, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.